Okay, we're going to reconvene.
You're gonna put him in his corner, Tom? His future home. He's gonna get up and down, right?
Whoops.
Well done.
All set. Okay, moving on. Number 4, consent agenda. Anything to remove from the consent agenda? Jim?
Yes, I'd like to remove A and D, please.
A and D. Anything else? Okay. Anybody like to move the consent agenda with the exception of A and D?
So moved.
Moved by Janet Burson, second by Jim
Second.
McKelvey. Okay, 4A.
Roll call.
Oh, I'm sorry, roll call.
Trustee Burson?
Aye.
Trustee McKelvey?
Aye.
Trustee Boatner?
Aye.
Trustee Millet?
Aye.
Trustee Muncy?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. All righty, Jim McKelvey.
On A, just because I wasn't at the last meeting, I'll put the motion on the floor. Then you can get a second, we'll get a vote.
Second.
Okay,
Okay. Trustee McKelvey?
Abstain.
Trustee Millet?
Aye.
Trustee Boatner?
Aye.
Trustee Burson?
Aye.
Trustee Muncy?
Abstain.
okay, motion passes. And I asked Jim to remove D. I just wanted to announce that our April meeting will be April 8th. And the second meeting will be the usual meeting of the month. It'll be April 15th, their regular meeting date. So,
And for the public to know, it's the night of the election, the day of the election.
correct,
That's the
April
reason
1st.
for moving it.
Yeah.
I so move.
Okay, moved by Jim McKelvey, second
Second.
by Nick. Roll call.
Trustee McKelvey?
Aye.
Trustee Boatner?
Aye.
Trustee Burson?
Aye.
Trustee Millet?
Aye.
Trustee Muncy?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Moving on, 5, staff reports, Police Department, Chief Levand.
Thank you. Real quick, I'd like to recognize Officer Hatt. He submitted his resignation, which was official on March 12th. He retired from police work after 33 years in law enforcement, both in Streamwood and Campton Hills. While here in Campton Hills, he was instrumental in many different community programs, including the Citizen Police Academy and Too Good for Drugs, which is taught at Belgraham and Wasco. He is well-liked and respected in the community, especially by both our schools and their staff. We wish Officer Hatt a happy and healthy retirement. 33 years is a long time doing this job, so God bless him on it. On Friday evening, we had another severe weather outbreak that had tornadoes reported in the area. DeKalb County Sheriff reported a tornado in the area of Beath and County Line Road in Maple Park. Beath and County Line Road in Maple Park moving east. We activated the tornado siren here at about 11:45 to alert residents of the severe weather. We're fortunate this time the village saw no major damage. We had some trees, power line damage, but no significant damage or injuries reported. Appears Hampshire and Elgin took the brunt of the storm. We had a 65-mile-an-hour straight line winds in this area, and we did have about 108 residents that lost power, but ComEd was pretty quick to get the power back up and restored. Just a reminder, the new secure payment box is mounted out front and being used by residents. It's there 24/7. We highly stress, please do not put cash in it, but there's a new sign that's going to go up above it sometime this week. When it's done, KDOT did it for me, so that's finalized. Too Good for Drugs, 17-week program concluded this past week with the graduation at both Belgraham and Wasco schools. I spoke at both graduations, congratulated all the students. I'd like to also thank Officer Hatt, Officer Harvey, and Officer Bond. They're the ones that taught the 17-week program this year, and they did an excellent job. All police personnel either have or are completing their yearly CPR and first aid training. It was done last week and this week. We also extended the invite to administration. Many took us up on that, including the village president who took part in it. So I want to thank Officer Harvey. We're fortunate. She's a certified CPR instructor, so she teaches it in-house, and it doesn't cost us additional money. So thank her for teaching the class. One more quick reminder, we've discussed this before. The village does now have a permit for special events, including block parties. There is no charge for it, but it's extremely important that residents submit this permit, which is online, thanks to Clerk Johnson who did it for me, so it can come to me because it has to be within 15 days so I can look at it, review it, and approve it. Again, this isn't a money, we're not charging fees for it, but it's important because I need to be able to communicate with the fire department, the highway department, when residents want to shut down streets and make sure for safety reasons that we can accommodate them. We're not turning block parties away, and residents do a great job every year in doing these. We just want to make sure it's done safely so first responders can get through. And that is all I have, unless you have questions.
Any comments or questions for Chief Levan? No? All right, thank you. Moving on, 6 action items, there are none. 7 discussion items. A, update village acceptance of public road improvements in Norton Lake subdivision. Give this to Scott. Scott, come on up.
Well, we have Scott for questions. I guess what I would like the board to know upon further review with Scott, there, and the developer, Shodine, and the attorney for Hank, we've got some questions to still iron out what the HOA is going to be responsible for, what's been turned over to them. And so at this point, I'm not asking for us to recommend for the April 8th meeting to accept the public improvements that are curb to curb, because there's part of that, there's stormwater that we're accepting in the street line, but the HOA, it looks like, has full responsibility of all the storm pipes, which is about 90% more pipe than we have. But how's our stormwater going to work if it's never been inspected and cleared in the 8 years? So I got some questions, and Scott's looked into that for us. So we just say we're still working with all parties because we want to not leave the HOA in a bad way, even though we're not going to be in a bad way as the village and the township highway department. There's other issues that have to be kind of ironed out. So we just, I was a little premature putting it on there when I asked him to look at it further. Too many questions to go forward.
Go ahead, Ed.
Thank you, President Winicky. If this was something within, outside of a subdivision, we would probably hear from our Public Works Subcommittee, we would hear from engineering, we would hear from Township Highway. In this case, will we be able to hear or have comment from, or at least get a report from the HOA or other parties, just to make sure that to make this decision, I guess we need to hear from the parties that are
HOA,
involved.
what we can use the bond and the letter of credit is only for the public improvements. Most of the issues that are, all the issues really are related to outside the curb to curb. The village, when they did this agreement, didn't take responsibility even for the 5 streetlights. Those are going to be on the HOA. And most of the storm pipe that takes the water conveyed on the street to the pond, we have like 10% of the pipe over there, and the rest is the HOA. And I don't think they fully are cognizant of the problems that they might have and the cost to maintain that, and I don't think it's been inspected necessarily, because the highway department and the village just looked at the piece that we were going to accept as public improvements, and just as an answer to some of the concerns the HOA board members voiced at the meeting, but also prior to that meeting, contacting the village. I think we got to do some more work with the developer, who's different than the builder. The developer has most of the responsibility, but is saying that it's done. And so we have to kind of iron that out.
Mike, go ahead.
Discussions, trustee person, just a little sidebar here, and we were consistent when we approved the subdivision as the Township Highway District had been prior to our incorporation, which the way they did Fox Mill, Fox Creek is essentially anything that's outside of the right-of-way is the responsibility of the homeowners association. So where, except for sidewalks and streetlights, that was the same thing. Those are in the right of way, but those are still maintenance by the homeowners association. So we mirrored what had gone on, because we didn't want to, we basically want to see the basic level of service for all our citizens is the pavement and the drainage related to the road. And we wanted to be consistent with that. And if you buy in an area that doesn't have those things, you don't have to worry about ever paying for those things, or you fix them on your own property, or whatever the case may be. And if you buy into the more dense developments that have them, then that becomes part of your long-term HOA maintenance, and that is an amenity that you have, that's amenity that is increasing the value of the property. You know, curb properties generally have more value than non-curb properties to an extent, and then it reverses when you get to some, you know, larger rural properties. But that was the concept all along, so I just wanted to make clear that we're not picking on anybody. This is nothing new. This is nothing because we're the village. This is the same procedure that would have been enforced by the township highway had the development come in as it originally was going to before we incorporated.
And, yeah, and I
Thank you,
just
Mike.
want to be fair to Shodine. Shodine is kind of labeled by the HOA as the villain for not fixing a lot of things. They weren't the developer. They're the home builder, which is very distinctly different than the developer, which is the greater site improvements. So, and I've got to, I now see in the front row with Tom there, we also want to make sure that the Wasco Sanitary District is fully inspected and been heard from before we have you. Even though we're only doing the curb to curb, we have other parties that could be dependent on our goodwill to try to help things get in a better state before they're accepted. So we're just trying to help our future and current residents that are living there.
Okay, Scott, go ahead.
Very little to add, other
No?
than the general intent of all this is just to minimize any ambiguity between what assume you have and what actually you have per agreements and such. So we're working on exhibits for the benefit of the village, for the benefit of the HOA, so it's very clear. This is yours, and this is yours. Everybody agrees, and then we
That's
move
true.
forward. That's the main reason what's going on right now.
Okay. Any questions or comments for Scott? All right, thank you. Okay, moving on, discussion item B, Burlington Boundary Agreement. Carmen?
Yes, in the packet this evening, you have a draft boundary agreement between the Village of Campton Hills and the Village of Burlington. This was published just recently by the Village of Burlington. The village will share in that publication. A copy has also been posted here at Village Hall. We anticipated having a board meeting on the 1st of April, so based on the publication deadline, it could have been approved on either April 1st or April 15th. So we're going to have it approved on the 15th of April because the notice says the 1st or the 15th in the published notice. But either way, if anyone has any questions, the map that's attached as an exhibit indicates the boundary line. And as you can see in the agreement, the development area between both communities essentially just indicates that it's going to remain as is, that the villages, neither village anticipates or would like to see any of the uses change in that area. And that it's closer that you get to the boundary line, both villages have rights to be heard at their respective PZC or ZBA with regard to any request for zoning relief for development of those properties as an interested party.
Janet, go ahead.
Does the boundary agreement that Burlington has with Elgin also stop at Kendall? Is that why this proposal for ours stopping at Kendall exists?
I believe so, yes. Yeah, the indication I was given was that Elgin was very happy to work on a boundary agreement with Burlington. I don't know if that will be
They
the
already
case.
had one, right?
They didn't have one before. They have one now.
It's the same lines.
Right.
Okay, didn't they renew one?
I thought it was a new one.
I think they just renewed it, but
Yeah,
anyway.
But it was within the last year. I believe it was in the fall of '24. I took a
Yes,
brief look at it
renewal of
before.
one from 2003.
It's possible, right, right.
Okay, any questions, anything else, any comments? All right, thank you, Carmen.
Okay.
Okay, moving on, additional items from the president, trustees, or attorney. Anybody have any comments? Sure.
CODA was on my mind. I totally missed the top part of my police report, but real fast, your February monthly report is attached to the packet. Christina misspelled February, not me, so I'm just gonna throw that out there. Hey, I always give her credit for everything. This was on her, so there was 326 calls for service, 7 accidents, 60 citations, and 1 arrest. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chief. All right, moving on to closed session. All right, motion for the village board to enter closed session is permitted by the Open Meetings Act to discuss one or more of the following matters: appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees or contractors.
So moved, Muncy.
Moved by
Second.
Muncy, second by Burson. Roll call.
Trustee Muncy.
Aye.
Trustee Burson.
Aye.
Trustee Boatner.
Aye.
Trustee McKelvey.
Aye.
Trustee Millet.
Aye.
And just there will be action after this closed session, and it should be very brief.